Hey, everybody. We are here. I don't know what just happened. Now, y'all know How Well Are You, the talk show, believes in starting at 6:30 on the dot. Guess what? We did just that a few minutes ago. We started at 6:30 on the dot, right? And as soon as I hit the go live button, my computer crashed. That's exactly what it did. It crashed. It said, you're not going live at 6:30. But you know what? I serve a God who's able to do exceeding abundantly above all we can ask or think. And I thank God so much for my brothers who I have never met until about 30, 35 minutes or so ago. And we were chopping it up before we went live, and it was already good. And I guess the devil, and I don't like to talk about him too much, but I'm gonna call his name this time for just one time. I guess he was like, y'all ain't going live tonight. But I thank God for my brothers, my brother Jonathan and my brother Leon Davis Jr., who hung with a sister and say, hey, we here, we ain't going nowhere, we in it for the long haul, we gonna stay right here, we're gonna get this done. So we are here with How Well Are You, the talk show. This is episode 21, I believe. And here at How Well Are You, the talk show, we believe in talking about every topic, tackling every topic related to mental health. We are ending the stigma surrounding mental illness, as I always say, one show at a time. So this evening, again, I have these amazing brothers. I tagged them, or I dubbed them the dynamic duo, because I feel kind of special, because I got a father and a son. I got a father and a son. These are our brothers, our kings, and I am so pleased to have them on. Now, with all that's happening, normally I would have their bio in front of me, and I would read their bio whatever happened. Everything just went haywire. So I don't even have any of that in front of me right now. So I'm going to allow them to tell you who they are. But I just want to take a moment to ask everyone to please like and share. Let everybody know, yes, we are here. We are here, and we getting ready. Listen, it's about to go down. So I need you to tag everybody you know. I need you to like the video. I need you to share the video and let everybody know that we are here. So I want to take this moment to welcome two amazing brothers from the great city of Nashville, the state of Tennessee. They say it's cold in Nashville. I say, okay, I'm glad, rather y'all than me. So please clap it up for and help me extend a warm welcome to my brothers of the founders of Black Men Vent 2, the father and son dynamic duo, Jonathan and Leon Davis Jr. Welcome, my brothers.
Amen. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for saying yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank y'all for hanging with me until we got this worked out. Because I'm like, this is, and Jonathan and I were DMing each other on IG back and forth like this. We know this is gonna be a good one. This is gonna be a good one right here. Because the forces that be did not want it to happen. But it's about to go down. So again, thank y'all so much. Thank you.
Thank you for looking us up, sis. And I'm glad you was able to find us. And I'm glad we were so accessible on the World Wide Web.
That says a lot about y'all. That says y'all doing some things out here in these streets.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And we don't shy away from a mental health conversation because like me and you was talking about offline. I consider mental health to be the new pandemic. Write it down. Yeah, write it down. This is the new pandemic.
I love that. I'm going to have to coin that phrase. And
Mm-hmm.
the first time I use it, I'm going to give you credit for it.
Praise
But
God.
after that, I'm owning it.
Run it, run it, run it, run it. Yeah, run it.
He said, mental health. Did you say mental health or mental health?
Yeah, mental health.
The new pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's deep. I got some questions for you, but let's just flow from there. Talk about that. Talk about that.
Well, the reason we coined it the new pandemic because it's a taboo subject that most people don't want to talk about. We'll talk about sports, we'll talk about the latest movie came out, but we never want to address the elephant in the room when somebody's dealing with something and you can't put a tab on it. Well, the tab is mental health because it has all kind of tentacles. It could be depression, it could be grief, it could be schizophrenia, all different kind of areas that mental health falls up under. And there's so many people that deal with it, but there are not too many people that want to talk about it. So God gave us this platform. We didn't come up with it ourselves. Matter of fact, we were just chopping it up in the driveway one day. And next thing you know, here we are.
Wow. And you just, okay, so I'm going to dial back to that, but you just answered the question that I was about to ask you. But I love what you said, Leon, about mental health or mental illness or mental disorders or whatever being the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk about it. We talk about everything. Everything. But it's something about when we mention the word mental health, people start clamming up.
Yes.
They start clamming up. And it's one of the most needed things that we need to be talking about, because for real, there are so many people dealing with mental health issues, whether it's people themselves or they have a family member, a loved one, a significant other, a friend, lottie dottie, everybody.
Right.
We all know someone who's dealing with a mental health issue. How do I know? Because statistics say that 1 in 5 U.S. adults is dealing with a mental health issue. So that means if we are in a room, and let's just make it real simple, and there's 5 people in the room, at least one of us in the room is dealing with a mental health issue. Exactly. So if the statistics are that dynamic, then why aren't we talking about what we need to be talking about? And a lot of stuff that we're talking about, we really don't need to be even talking about. It's not even talk worthy. Right. This is talk worthy. Okay. So, and then I like when you said it has so many tentacles. Back in the day, when we talked about mental health, the only thing probably that most people would talk about is depression. So if somebody was depressed, we knew that they were dealing with a mental health disorder, and maybe anxiety. But as you said, there are so many tentacles, some that we haven't even turned over, So true. And so, yeah, so we don't have a problem talking about diabetes. We don't have a problem talking about lupus. We don't have a problem talking about MS. We don't have a problem talking about high blood pressure, cancer, none of that. But when it comes to this elephant in the room, yes, everybody wants to be quiet. And that's why I have a mantra. My mantra is, I'm not keeping quiet anymore.
Praise God. Praise God. Speak up. Yeah, speak up, sister. And let me throw this in there also. So what about when me and my son, when we started out the podcast, we were looking for funds. So we went out and tried to get some grants for, this situation that we was trying to create. What about when we went to the government sites? We went to the local governmental site. We looked on the internet. There was nothing out there to support 2 black men that want to talk about mental health. Not one grant. Not one grant. We started what, 2019 or 2019, 2021. We started in 2021. We've been going there for 2.5, almost 3 years now. There was nothing out there for 2 men, especially black men, that want to talk about mental health. Nothing. So guess what we had to do? Go to the pockets. Go to the pockets.
Bootstrap. You had to do what you had to do, right?
Yes.
Wow. And that is so. I won't say I'm surprised, but I am surprised, but I'm not surprised. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because it's needed. And I think one of the reasons why they may, and I'm just saying in my mind, partially, maybe, one of the reasons why that people may not have been receptive to 2 black males. Well, first of all, you're black. And when did black people ever want to talk about mental illness?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
White folks been talking about it. They've been going to therapy.
Come on now. Come on. Years, decades. Exactly. Yeah.
But we've been trying to pray it away.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And as Judge Million said, how did that work out for you?
Right.
So I want to dial back for just a second because you already touched on it, but I want you to dig a little deeper. Yes, so the first thing you said that you all were sitting in the driveway chopping it up, mm-hmm. and the idea. Talk more about what that conversation was like and how y'all eventually started to develop Black Men Vent 2.
In all honesty, it's very rare. It's 4 of us. It's myself, my dad, my mom, and my youngest brother, Joshua. And very rare that you catch us all in the same time, in the same place.
True.
Because we all have different lifestyles. We're all doing different things. So this particular time, I don't know if it was at random or if we were just
we just happened to end up in the driveway.
We just happened to end up in the driveway. It was weird. But during the summertime, roughly, going into the summertime, and conversation kind of struck up from a thing that we used to do at my parents' house. My dad had almost like a men's forum where he would bring a bunch of different guys just from church, from work, from the community, and we would have a men's circle and just talk. Mm-hmm. So my mom, she would curate different questions, put it in a hat, and we would pluck each question, each topic, and we would discuss it in that circle. Once COVID hit, mm-hmm. you naturally can't be around everybody in a circle doing that type of practice. So from there, that maturated into as what we can see today being Black Men Vent 2. The conversation was naturally, how do we restart that?
Yep.
How do we get that back going?
Yep.
To where we're not as intimate, but we can still be close, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So the best way to do that is to use these technological advances that we often have and have right at our fingertips and curate what is now to be a podcast. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, I try to explain it this way. My dad, we try to explain it this way. That Black Men Vent 2, it is a nonprofit. We are a nonprofit organization, and the podcast is just a branch of mm-hmm. the nonprofit. Mm-hmm. So as you know, God continues to kind of maneuver us through, then hopefully we'll add to that tree mm-hmm. with different branches up under the veil of Black Men Vent 2 LLC. But that was the conversation. Mm-hmm. My brother, he chimed in. I chimed in. My mom, my dad. We procrastinated for about a month, mm-hmm. and then we got right into it. So, so we had to procrastinate. You as Black folks, you gotta delay some time.
Yeah. You said, you gotta pray about it.
Yeah. You gotta do all the extra stuff and put some sage on it and sprinkle some pixie dust on it and all that stuff. So after we procrastinated for about 4-5 weeks. We were at a baseball game.
We was at the Nashville Sounds.
They're a minor league team here in Nashville. We was at the baseball game. It was about inning, maybe 3, 4, 5, somewhere around there. And Pops looked over at me. He was like, "Bug, let's do it." And I didn't know what he was talking about because I was sitting there looking at the game. I wasn't thinking about podcasts because we hadn't talked about it in a while.
Right.
He was like, "Let's do it." I'm like, "Man, what you talking about?" He was like, the podcast, man. Let's next week. Let's just do it. So that Monday, August the 1st of 2021.
Yes.
From then till today, we've done 130 now.
Yeah, I think it's 130.
We've done 130 episodes, 130 weeks straight.
We haven't missed 1 week.
Not 1 week of a gap. Yeah, we just been gunning it. So that all started from the conversation in the driveway.
Yes, praise God.
Wow, I love that. I absolutely love that. So the conversation, let's talk about the conversation before the conversation. So what had you all noticed about the brothers as it relates to mental health that needed to be put out there? What had y'all noticed to make you even start having the conversation, about starting this platform, your platform, Black Men Vent Too?
Well, what happened is, like he said, God had given me this thing where I wanted to share wisdom with young males. So, like he said, we would get together in my house. My wife would cook. She put some things together, and she curated questions or whatever. And we would just talk because I wanted to share wisdom with them. But I also had an open ear because I wanted to hear what they were dealing with. And because I know that a lot of time Black men do not talk, no matter if you 18, 16, 35, 45, we don't talk. So I wanted to give brothers a chance to talk because I know that a lot of time we see brothers acting out in the community. And there's a lot of time because they don't have a place where they can let all that out. You know what I'm saying? You need a place where you can get all that out your system. And I figured that there was no way for us to do that but to talk. So I tried to create an atmosphere where they could come and be comfortable when nobody gonna judge them. I wasn't gonna judge them about how many girlfriends you got, how many babies you got. None of that didn't matter to me. I want to know what it was going to take for you to get to a place where you can be successful, get to a place where you can be addition to society and not a liability. Because at the end of the day, they always consider us as Black men. We right off the rip, we're a liability. I want to be a part of that change. And my son, like I said, and it was just to the point when the pandemic hit, it stayed on my mind. It stayed on his mind. And when we came together in the driveway, we both were trying to find a way that we could get it out. And the podcast was the way that we saw that we could get it out. And like I said, a lot of times you see brothers that are, in jail situations or whatever, but you got to dig deeper. And that's what we want to do, is we want to dig deeper. And the only way we could do that is give a brother a chance to open up.
Wow, this is so good. And I already feel like I could just be talking to y'all all night long. Let me digress right here and welcome Twana, Danny, Elizabeth, and I saw somebody else, Lizette. She might have popped in and popped off. That's my girl. I know how she rolled. And anyone else who may be listening, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We're here with son and father, dynamic duo, Jonathan and Leon Davis Jr., and we are chopping it up about Black men. Well, not about. They are actually the founders of Black Men Vent Too. But we're going to be talking in a moment about that subject of relationships and mental health. But I wanted them to give us a little bit of background. So we already heard Leon say that he's married. So we already know that he's in a relationship, and we're going to get into that in a moment. What about you, Jonathan? I'm just want to get in your business a little bit. You in, out? What's up with you?
I'm single, but I ain't trying to mingle. I need to focus on me for a little minute, and gotta roll it back around some kind of way.
Okay, I love that. I love both of you. Just have a way with words, and I absolutely love that. You said gotta roll it back around some kind of way.
Yeah.
So since we are on the subject of relationships, whether you're dating, whether you're married, in a relationship otherwise, let's talk about some of the complexities of being in a relationship and how it may affect our mental health. And Leon, if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been married?
28 years.
Woo! Okay, so you certified?
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
You certified?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You certified. So let's go. Talk about it.
One thing I can say about marriage, I'm gonna say, and I've been sharing this with my young son and some of his compadres. That you know what I had to do? First of all, when you're young, okay, you're gonna play around, you're gonna do your thing. You 17, 18, you out here kicking it. You know, you living the college life. I went through all of that. I went to Tennessee State University. If you know anything about Tennessee State University, I partied. Yeah, we kicked it. I did all of that. And I had my, had my little player days and all that old stuff. But then there comes a time in life where you got to get serious. And when I got ready to get serious, I thank God for my parents, because one thing they instilled in me is that you got to talk to the Father when you want something. And I went to God with it. I just asked God, Lord, give me what I need. You know I need a wife. I'm ready for that. I had been out there playing around for long enough. I was ready to come in. You know what I'm saying? But I wasn't gonna just come into anything. So you know what I'm saying? So I asked God to give me the right person for me. Because at the end of the day, when God created Adam, he didn't stop right there. He gave Adam and Eve for a helpmate. And I knew that there was a helpmate out there for me, but I didn't want to keep picking in the cherry bunch. I wanted to make sure that I go get the right thing for me. So I asked God to give me the right woman, and God came through. You know, he said it in his word, Matthew 21:22. If you believe, you shall receive all things asked for in prayer. So I believed in it. Now, granted, it wasn't an easy go about, because I prayed a long time about it, and I had a person in mind. And next thing you know, one thing led to another, and it came to fruition. But again, I basically, I know it might sound cliches or whatever for Christian people to say this, but I asked God and he came through. That's what I did. And I think that, so 28 years later, here I am on here with you, sister, talking about just that very thing, that God came through. Now, has the whole journey been an easy journey? No.
Talk about it.
It's been some downs. When we started raising kids, she had her way of doing things. I had my way of doing things. But you know what made it complete, though, is that she was a Christian woman and I was a Christian man. Now, we were not as mature as we are right now, but I thank God that at least we had that in common. You know what I'm saying? Because even the scriptures will tell you that you should not be unequally yoked. So I made sure that she matter of fact, this was the funny part. I left my church to come to her church. And when I got to her church, I just stayed because I liked it. It was an old school church. And I've been there. I've been there my whole career. You know, most of my church life since I've been in Nashville has been at this one church. But again, I said all that to say that God came through. He hooked me up with the right person. But again, with the ups and downs of life, you know, you see, it's a lot of things you got to talk about first. You can't, you know, my path. If anybody check out our podcast, we did a relationship and marriage one season. And my pastor came on, and this one thing he said, it was so monumental. He said, one thing about relationships is this: we got to stop laying and start talking. Talk first.
Hold on. Wait. You moving a little bit too dial back. He said we got to stop doing what and do more.
Stop laying. You got to get the order right now. We like to lay and play first and then talk later. Now he was like, you need to talk first and find out what's going on in that arena, then start laying and playing. Well, see, we got the order mixed up. Yeah, and that was the advice that he gave us. People need to go back and check that episode out, man. In fact, that was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, go back and check that episode out. Marriage and relationship season. It's about 4 episodes, and the first one was with Pastor George T. Brooks Sr. of St. James Missionary Baptist Church, and he laid the foundation for what a marriage should look like and how to go about formulating a marriage and the process that you go through.
Yeah.
Ooh, my God. You just said a whole word right there. Now, when you said that, this is what came to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a lot of times in relationships, whether within marriage or outside of marriage, because we don't have the priorities aligned, we land and plan instead of talking and doing what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
That is why things happen that cause some mental health occurrences with people, because now you got your priorities out of order, stuff is all jacked up,
Right.
and now your head zone is messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan,
Mm-hmm.
you say you singling, but you single, but you ain't ready to mingle. So sounds like you may have had some experiences, and not necessarily, but let's flip it over to the single guy that may have been in a relationship that turned out not to be such the one, and it caused some issues as far as mentally. And it ain't got to necessarily be, because when we talk about mental health, as Leon was saying earlier, there's so many different tentacles, and people think when you talk about mental health, you got to be talking about somebody that's in a straight jacket or playing with their bottom or whatever. But honey, we got people that's walking around here looking totally like everything is okay.
Yeah.
But there are some things going on. Jonathan, talk about that.
You said we can be real, so
Yes, you can.
I had to scoot up a little bit to the laptop. In all honesty, Miss Cynthia, I'm just to give context, I'm 28 years old. I, like my dad said, I've done, if he did the player, then I done did it times two. So going through that era, going through college, I'm here to say that, I have not treated women to the best of what they need to be treated in terms of emotionally, being there emotionally. Never put my hands on a woman at all, but just in terms of being there emotionally, stuff like that, I've lacked in that area because naturally I was a wild boy growing up. Wild boy, I was always in the scene, always in the light, always wanted to do stuff and be around the entertainment, if you will. One thing that I said on a podcast is that when you get into a relationship now, you appreciate being bored with your partner. And what I mean by that is, because we're talking about mental health, so I'm going to tie all this in. The next relationship, I pray that God brings me around, I'm going to truly embrace boredom in our relationship. And what I mean by that is, you don't always have to be on social media with the relationship, love. You don't always have to be out on the scene. You ain't got to be at the next person's hookah bar or the next person's club or lounge, but just being able, they done made a cliche statement out of it, but to just Netflix and chill with your significant other. It keeps you out of trouble. It keeps you out of jail. It keeps you got food in your house. It keeps you fed. You pay. You ain't got to go spend no money, because nowadays you walk outside and breathe, it's $50. So it's one of those things where when you talk about mental health and you talk about, just naturally relationships and dating and stuff like that, I personally say it's different in our generation versus my dad's generation. We got social media that's a distraction. We got all of these other things that's a distraction. And I truly believe that if you are not raised in an environment where you have a foundation set to discipline behind those different distractions, then those distractions discipline you. If you don't discipline the distraction disciplines you. And social media is now disciplining the millennial, Gen X, Z, Q, Y, whatever you want to call it. They're taking our minds and essentially kind of introducing us to environments that are not real. All of these celebrity love relationships and the Blueface and Krishan Rocks and all these type of stuff. I just wish it was a way that naturally people would understand that all of these different tentacles that I just named are affecting our people, our people, Black people. It's affecting us all. And I always say as well that when you talk about mental health, talk about relationships, you talk about dating, when you bear children with the one that you're a partner with or associated with, totally different dynamic, because you're bringing another brain into the mental health configuration. You're bringing a whole nother human into the good and the bad of whatever that you and the partner may be dealing with, may be going through. So it takes a bit of understanding that if you're in that side of relationships and whatnot, you got to think about this child.
Yes, Lord.
You got to think about this child.
Lord.
Black Men Vent 2 right now, the month of October, we did a season titled Co-Parenting Conspiracies, because there is a lot of conspiracies involved in co-parenting. And what we wanted to do, what we wanted to illustrate, Miss Cynthia, is this is not a baby mama, baby daddy bashing party. We weren't here for that.
Right.
And none of our guests gave us that.
Right.
What we wanted to introduce is that on the podcast, we say this all the time. We want to make uncomfortable conversations comfortable. Mental health is uncomfortable. Talking about co-parenting is uncomfortable. Talking about your baby daddy may be uncomfortable. Talking about your baby mama may be uncomfortable. What we do on our show, what we did in that season, and what we wanted to do was enlighten our audience and our supporters on the positive and negative effects that can occur in a co-parenting experience. You know, and from all of that, we were able to really see, I think me and my dad can both agree that it's not one-sided.
Right.
It's not one-sided at all.
Right.
The man may be the deadbeat, the mother may be the deadbeat. It could be either of the two. But I just think that bringing awareness to the uncomfort of that conversation and putting that out, just to go back to answer your question, that is what's going to help us better our mental health, when we can actually start making uncomfortable conversations comfortable, sit down, be able to have dialogue without emotion, conversation without emotion, so that you can get to a common ground and a common understanding of how to do better and be better in society.
Wow, I love that, Jonathan. You said have the dialogue without emotion. And you know, especially us as Black folks,
we're gonna have emotion.
Into the drama. Yeah. We can be some drama kings and queens.
Yeah, right.
Queens and kings. We used to call the girls drama queens, but I know some drama kings too.
Come on now. Yeah.
Like you said, it can work both ways. And I love when I think about Black Men Vent 2, I just so absolutely love this platform, because we just don't have enough spaces where Black men feel like they can vent, and especially when it comes to mental health. Dad, you want to add to what Jonathan just said? He said a mouthful.
Yeah. What I like about him and what he just said, and I like what he did, what he's doing in his life right now, is whomever is causing some of these distractions have to take accountability. And a lot of times we don't like taking accountability. We like pointing the finger at somebody, but they always told me, if you point one at you, how many is pointing back at you? So yes, ma'am. So if we're going to do that, just like the podcast we had yesterday. So when we're doing these type of things, we got to ask ourselves. We had a study in our church one time during our training sessions at our church, and we went over conflict resolution. And in conflict resolution, you have to always ask yourself, in the conflict, what could I have done to make that situation better? And that causes you to look at the man in the mirror. James talked about it in James chapter 1. We talk about just like a man that goes and looks at the mirror, then turns around and turns away from the mirror and forgets what he saw in the mirror. No, you can't forget what you see in the mirror. You got to deal with what you see and make that the best version of you that you can be. Because even in this co-parenting conspiracy season, you always got to think about you said it earlier. What's the priority? The priority is the child. So if the priority is the child, then that takes me out the situation. But a lot of times we want to use the child to get at either or, the man or the woman, and make that the priority. And then the child is left behind. And then the child, man, we was talking about this. Think about a child. He said it, bringing a new brain into the world. Think about a child that has to be with daddy for the weekend, with mama all during the week, with daddy during Christmas, with mama during Thanksgiving. What's this child dealing with? We're not thinking about the child. We just thinking about get him here at 5 o'clock like you're supposed to have him here. You know what I'm saying? We're not thinking about all of that. What is the child going through? We thinking about self. You know what I'm saying? So when you're in a relationship, if you can take self out this situation, a lot of times you can come to some resolution that will make all of this stuff better. It'll just make it a better ride. Sometimes it just takes self out of the situation.
Wow, I absolutely love that. And I love it that you both, when you refer to situations, you use both genders. A lot of times when you're listening to preach, and this is one of my pet peeves. Hey, Shane, when you're listening to a preacher preach, they'll use an example. And if he's a man, he'll use a woman as an example. She, and she got on her makeup and her perfume, and I'm like, okay, so what about he?
What about the brother? Yeah.
Preaching, she's talking about he. Like, you got to use both genders as examples. So I love that about you both, that you're using when you talk about situations, people causing a problem in the co-parenting situation or whatever. You said it could either be he or she. And I love that already, because that's one of the things that we have to start doing. We have to be inclusive. We can't just always use the man as the example or use the woman as an example. Now, if we're talking about a specific situation that is gender specific, yes, but there are a lot of situations that we talk about that women and men are both culprits, if you will, in them, but we always want to blame the man, or we always want to blame the woman. But we gotta call it what it is, and we gotta be equal in that. And so I absolutely love that about you all. Another question that comes to my mind when you're talking about adding a little person to the equation when it comes to this family dynamic and this whole mental health thing. What are your thoughts on being proactive as far as seeing a therapist, not because something is wrong, but before something goes wrong? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm gonna let Jonathan come after me because I'm married. So I'm gonna say, but what I want to say is this though. I think is if you're going into it, like you getting ready to go into a real situation where you know that you want to be with this person. If you know that you got some things going on, I think it's a plus. And matter of fact, and I don't know how many churches do this. I don't know how many people believe in this, but this is what we do at our church. Before you get married, we take you through a counseling session, like a premarital counseling. And that way, here we go. That way you can talk and each other can find out what's what. My pastor, he takes us through this thing where he talks about money. He talks about what do you like to do on Saturdays and Sundays? Sometimes people been in a relationship and don't even know. Well, what do you like to do on Saturdays? What do you like to do on Sunday? What do you do for the holiday? Do you go see your mama? Do you go see your daddy? Do you even visit your folks on the holiday? All of these things have to come out before we go into a life situation where we talking about to death do us part. And sometimes we get in a situation and we hadn't even discussed this stuff. And then when Christmas time come up, you like, I'm going to see my mama. No, I'm going to see my daddy. Oh, here we go. Here we go. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta, it just, one thing I had to give my wife credit for is she taught me communication. I wanna be a communicator. I come from that era where didn't nobody have to tell me they love me and my family. They show you because they tell you I went to work today, Dana. All right, they'll let you know it's some food in the refrigerator, ain't these lights on, ain't they? All right, they'll let you know I love you. But every now and then I needed to hear that. Now, granted, no disrespect to my mom and daddy, because I love my mom and dad. They both gone on to glory. But I could have used some of that growing up. I could have. But I got it when I married my wife, because she comes from there. Her family is a hugging. See you. They don't shake hands. They hug. I wasn't used to that. I had to get used to it. But guess what? I like it now. So, that's just some stuff that you got to bring out. Like you said, got to be proactive instead of reactive. And a lot of time when we react, we don't react in the right way.
Woo. Well, come on, Jonathan. I ain't even gonna touch that. I'm gonna leave that alone. Come on, Jonathan. What you got?
Well, you said naturally just ways to be proactive behind it, and just when does it start or when should it start. I say this a lot on the podcast, that I think we try to have mental health conversations when we become adults. I would love to see a mental health podcast surrounded where you just bring adolescent kids on for them to just talk. I'm talking like, let's just be honest. A lot of the stuff that's going on is happening earlier. Yes. Kids are losing their virginity earlier. Kids are doing drugs earlier. Kids are involved in gang affiliations earlier.
True.
It's going backwards instead of disappearing. It's going backwards. So I think you'd get a good, interesting podcast out of an 11-year-old from Chicago that's been, and I'm not stereotyping or anything like that. Just follow me in context that it needs to start almost at birth. We need to follow the kids at 2 years old, see where their development is at 5, see how they're maturing at 8, 9. So that way, by the time they get to 13, we got a log, we got a track record, we got documentation.
True.
Nobody's paying attention because we doing birthdays and holidays and Santa Claus and Halloween. Ain't nobody thinking about what this child is going through in school, what this child is going through out of school, what this child is going through at home, what this child is going through up here. You really, really, really got to put that into context and have the uncomfortable conversations earlier. We can't wait until their 16th birthday or when they're 18 and they become adults by society, or when they're 21 and they legally ready to drink. Now, let's start them conversations a little earlier.
Yeah.
Who knows their child better than you? So you should be able to talk to your child and discuss with your child in reason, right? In reason, when they ready, certain things and topics that they're gonna see at that age. Why? Because this stuff is happening backwards in age, and it's not happening to where it's disappearing at all. So you got to start the conversation early.
Ooh, I could talk to you all for hours, and I love what you said about starting the conversation early. And you already planted a seed in my head now when you talked about an adolescent podcast. I'm on top of that.
Do that.
I'm on it. Yeah.
Please, and when you do it, invite us.
Yeah, we just want to watch. Yeah, we want to see.
Absolutely. You better believe it, because I'm on that. And you were saying, you said something that struck me about when to have certain conversations. If you are intuitive to your child, if you are paying attention to your child, so there doesn't have to be an age, quote unquote, the drinking age or the 16 or whatever. It is when you detect. It is when if you're paying attention to them, you're going to know when it's time to have the conversation.
Right.
That's just like, and I know this analogy is kind of like out the box, but it's the only one I can think of. It's just like roles in relationships. Who says the husband got to take out the garbage? Who says the wife has to cook? It's whoever does what they do. So with having a conversation with your adolescent, who says that it has to be a certain age? Because like you said, Jonathan, we're working backwards now. If you would, like the old folks said, we're working backwards. Yeah. So since we're working backwards, then we need to work backwards. Some of y'all will catch that on the way out. We need to work backwards.
Yeah.
This is so good. Listen, y'all, we are chopping it up with dynamic duo, son and father, Jonathan and Leon Davis Jr. of Black men vent too. When I tell you this conversation is fire, Shane just said conversation should start while the situation is in progress. That's what I'm talking about, Shane.
Amen.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're talking about. Why are you going to wait until, okay, you see a situation happening with this adolescent? So if you weren't proactive, at least be active when it is in progress. Like she said, I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
So we're talking about mental health when it comes to relationships, whether it is in dating, whether it's in marriage, whatever relationship with your adolescent or whatever. We just chopping this thing up. So what we are going to do, we're going to take a very short break. I don't want y'all to go nowhere, because y'all got to admit, y'all know this is some good stuff right here. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some more with the Davis Kings about this whole subject on mental health as it relates to relationships, and whether it's dating, whether it's marriage, relationship. And I think we kind of may have had something else in mind when we were talking about relationships, but you know what? We're going to let this thing do what it do. And the reason why we're going to let it do what it do, because we trust that whatever is being said, that God is in control of it. And we're going to let him take control. We're going to let him have control. Yes, Shane, she said, awesome father and son duo. Yeah, I already, I dubbed them the dynamic duo. So I think they're okay with that. So yes, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to chop it up a little bit more. And then we're going to go about our business, because I could stay here all night. I'm loving this. Check this out, y'all. And we'll be back in a moment. I know I just saw that. I called you Leo.
Look, I ain't caught up on that.
You know what? That's what Miss Perfectionists get. Because let me tell you, I be hard on people, y'all. I be like, you need to pay attention. You need to look at that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. But anyway, I'll call myself out. So, but I apologize for that. We know it ain't Leo.
It's okay.
No worries.
Listen, y'all, I am just absolutely plum pleasing proud to be able to sit in the same room with these two kings right here. father and son,
Praise God.
Jonathan and Leon Davis Jr. You all have truly been a blessing to me this evening. So I don't even know, to be honest, I don't even know where to go from here. I'm just going to come off camera and I'm just gonna let you all talk and say whatever it is you want to say until you finish saying it. And when you get done saying whatever you want to say, go ahead and let our audience know how they can connect with you. And we'll go from there. But right now, that is what I feel like I need to do. I'm gonna step back and y'all can step up and just go for it.
Let me go first again, because I want my son to do the handles. He's the one that, we try to keep everything kind of orderly fashion. He does all the social media stuff. He does all the advertisement and all that type of thing. So I let him go after me. But what I did want to say was this: is like Jonathan said earlier, there is two other parts of Black Men Vent too, and the two other parts is my wife and my other son, Joshua Davis. Joshua Davis is 22 years old and he's a bodybuilder. But I said all that to say that they're the behind the scenes support that me and Jonathan have. It's just that Jonathan and myself, we have the gift of gab, as you can see. So we're the ones that take care of all this type of thing, the podcast and all the talking areas. But we do have great support from my wife and from my son, Joshua. And we just thank God for giving us this platform. But also, I want to say this, sister, when me and you was growing up, this was another reason we got into the mental health podcast thing, because I remember growing up, and I remember going over people's houses. Like growing up, you go visit your friends, you go visit your kinfolk, this, that, and the third. And if they had a mental person that was in their family that was dealing with mental health, because we did not have the health care, because we did not have the money to address those situations, a lot of times you would see those people and they would be in the back room somewhere, in a dark corner somewhere. And I always try to figure out why they kept their brother in the back room, why they kept uncle in the back room. A lot of times because uncle or brother was dealing with a mental health situation and nobody knew how to deal with but to lock them in a room, put their food in the room and close the door and all this type of stuff, and kept them in a dark room. And I used to always try to figure out why is that. When I got older, started understanding more about life, figured it out. They was dealing with a mental health issue that we could not pay for, did not have the mental health access to get it done, and didn't have no type of way of addressing that situation. So I thank God for giving us this platform where we can do the best we can at addressing it. And I'm going to take this from my son before he said, I'm going to let him have the mic then. But my son said, we want to change the narrative of the Black man that's dealing with mental health issues one episode at a time. So that's what we're trying to do. That's our goal. That's our mission. And we're going to stick to it until God calls one of us home or he changes our direction.
Yeah. First things first, to Miss Cynthia, to her audience, to you guys, thank you all for having myself and my dad be a part of you guys' evening. It has been fun, naturally for us to be here. The devil tried to step in, but God prevailed. So I wanted to say thank you, Miss Cynthia.
Yes.
You are a Black queen in your own right as well. And I see you doing your thing with your platform, so keep pushing.
Yes.
One thing I want to naturally just kind of talk about, just a personal testimony of kind of how this year has been for me. And I think one thing that culturally we do not do or we do not take part in is the art of patience. Having patience is not something that's given. It's something that you truly have to work on every single day. I had a personal experience. I won't get too much in detail, where I had to wait about 13 or 14 months for something that I really, really wanted to have. And I went through a lot of different variables of circumstances out of my control, some of them that caused my mental health to really, really be kind of bothered. My dad knows this, but 2 or 3 years ago, I did attempt suicide. I actually ran away from home for a period of time, and the only thing that got me back home was my mom texted me and was like, "Bud, we're gonna have to send out a missing report on you if you don't come back home." So that brought me back home. Said all that to say, patience is something that you really, really have to work on each and every day. If I would have 2 or 3 years ago crashed out in that moment, if I would have allowed the devil to do what he was doing, then on June the 15th of 2022, I wouldn't have met my firstborn son. I was blessed to have a firstborn son. His name is Zachariah. I couldn't deny him if I wanted to, because he looks. If I look like him, then you got to know he looks like me. Exactly. But it's one of those things where I had to be patient. I had to wait it out. And it's not to say that once I had my son, I did not have other moments where I had to be patient in. Man, this year has been a year for me as a father, a year for me as a business owner, a year for me as a son, as a worker, as a black man in society. It's been a hell of a year, but I will say that the scripture that lives in me and I pray lives through me is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6.
Yes.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. That be our problem. That's the problem. We lean to our own understanding. I'm leaning to the understanding of, I don't understand why you doing this to me, or I don't get why this is going on, or why me, wham. We lean to our own understanding, not what his understanding is for us in that time. And always acknowledge him. So that means in the good, in the bad, when it rains, when it's sunny outside, when it's snowing, when it's sleet, when it's hell, acknowledge him for who he is, and he will direct your path.
Yes.
I have been really, really challenged with that verse all year long. And it's just something that I've attached myself to try to continue to allow that to live in me and live through me. It's a journey, and you got to appreciate the journey in order to get to the destination. The hustle said it best. It's a marathon. It's a marathon, man. And you got to continue to run the race, continue to be patient. And lastly, show each other the grace.
Yes.
Black people, we don't do this. We do not do that. Show your fellow brother, your fellow sister grace. Your sister probably didn't text you back because she was crying in a closet and didn't know about her. Your homeboy, he probably didn't hit you up because he was crying in the closet because he got to figure out how to feed 3 kids when he just got laid off yesterday.
Wow.
Let's do a better job of checking in. I try to do that with all of the guests that we've had. Every blue moon, I'll just say mental health check-in. That's all I say. Either you respond or you don't. It could be a 2-minute conversation. We could talk for 2 hours. But I just need I need to know that you're alive and you're well. So we need to do a better job as Black people of treating each other with grace. And then lastly, be patient with one another. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with God. It's still some things I'm sitting here waiting on. I'm waiting on God to bless us, Black Men Vent 2, with a televised TV show. I'm thinking Steve Harvey and Ellen DeGeneres and all that type of stuff. So I'm excited. I'm excited. It's been a blessing for us to be 2 years in, and we got a long way to go. And lastly, I'll say this before we give our social media handles. We were voted by our city as the #1 podcast in Nashville. There is a magazine publication called the Nashville Scene. It's one of easily the top magazines in the city. They did a voters poll, and we were voted the best podcast in Nashville of 2023 earlier this month.
Praise God.
We are super excited to hold that title. We've been bragging about it, but we really been bragging on
God. That's right.
Because again, that scripture holds true that if you trust in God with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding and always acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Social media handles, you can find us on Instagram at Black Men Vent, VENT, the number 2. TikTok, we warming up on TikTok. We figuring it out. TikTok is Black Men Vent TOO, Black Men Vent 2. Then you have Facebook is also Black Men Vent TOO, Black Men Vent 2. YouTube, we are on YouTube as well. Check us out. Got a couple of episodes out. We try to drop 2 episodes a month just to keep our YouTube going. You can find us there at Black Men Vent 2, VNTOO. Check out the co-parenting conspiracy season. I'm really blowing that up because, again, that is a topic that affects your mental health, but we don't talk about it. And what are we here to do? Make uncomfortable conversations comfortable on Black Men Vent 2.
Wow. Just wow. I knew it. I knew because of that snafu. And I had said that, you know, I was going to just let y'all holler at me after you gave your handles. But if you could just hang tight.
No worries.
Man, this has been phenomenal. I had to syllabalize that.
Thank you, sister.
Wow.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, you are welcome. Thank you for being here. And you know, I will be reaching back out because I'm on my way out. I'm booked for 2023, but we're coming back in 2024 strong. And like you, since I actually started in March, and at first it was going to be once a month. Then it ended up being twice a month. Then it ended up being then it was like weekly, because I was telling, I'm like, I ain't trying to, and but God, you know how God does things.
But God.
So but God. So I hold, especially when it comes to mental health, this is something that I hold very dearly to my heart. And the reason why I'm not keeping quiet anymore is because I am one of 4 siblings. I am the youngest. I am the only girl. All 3 of my brothers were affected by severe mental health disorders. My oldest brother, who was bipolar, died by suicide when he was about 31 or 32. My middle brother, who is schizophrenic, has been missing for over 23 years.
Wow.
And my youngest brother, who is schizophrenic, has been institutionalized in a facility for the criminally insane for 36 years.
Oh, my God. Wow.
And that's why I do what I do.
You got to do it. And you just gave us, that fueled me even more when you just said that. That's the reason we do what we do, because we want to catch that on the front end some kind of way.
Exactly.
Lord,
and what you said is exactly what was the issue, because there was no early intervention. Unfortunately for my brothers, they were not able to live ordinary, productive, and fulfilling lives. Nothing against my parents. I absolutely love my parents. They were devout Christians. My daddy was a deacon in the church. My mama was the psalmist. And all I heard was, they need to pray. They need to go to church. Well, guess what? They needed to pray and they needed to go to church, but they needed professional treatment.
That's right. That's right.
How about that?
That's right. That's right. I agree.
So, and that's why I'm out here doing what I'm doing.
Sister, don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop.
How can we help? What you need us to do?
Don't stop.
How can we help?
Did you write a book?
So
look, again, he does all the social media stuff. You see, I let him do the handles because my brain ain't with all that. You know what I'm saying? But he does all of that. But we're gonna promote your book on our show. I'm gonna speak that one. We're gonna promote your book on our show for sure.
What we do is we do advertisements for anybody that may be interested. Naturally, Miss Cynthia, yours is on the house. We do $15 advertisements. We've been heard one time in 42 countries. We have over 11,500 streams. We've been in 6 magazines. You're gonna get your small business heard somewhere, in some shape, form, or fashion. So, Miss Cynthia, please, once we get done, I need all the information about your book. If it's on Amazon, if it's on wherever we can find it at, your passion behind it. We'll put you in an advertisement for our episode next week. I can do that.
And here's another thing that we try to do. And I hope you got a few seconds for me to talk about this.
Go right ahead. Take all the time you need.
Just another thing to do. We call ourselves bridges. We bridge gaps. And what we try to do, if we have a brother on our show, say if he has a business, and we have another brother come on that has a business, we try to connect those brothers together so they can collaborate and have a bigger business or have a bigger vision on what they're doing. And I'll give you a prime example. We had a brother on our show that was he was an artist. He was an artist. Then we had another brother on the show that was he was trying to promote doing sidewalks in the city.
Yeah.
And he was going to do a mural on the street to try to promote them, advocating for them to put a sidewalk. What about we put them two brothers together? The brothers got together and the brother painted the mural on the sidewalk. It was because they was on our show. So that's what we try to do. That's another service we try to offer. So with you being in the position you in, I'm gonna tell Jonathan, but we need to hook you up with some. We've had a few ladies on our show also, and we know some women that have some powerful platform. And I hope he'll be able to bridge that gap for you, because they need to hear what you just told us about your brothers and your book.
Yeah,
they need to hear that.
We'll stay in touch. We'll stay in touch.
They need to hear that.
Thank you so much. I'm telling you, that's why and Jonathan quoted the scripture, and I put it on the screen earlier. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Absolutely. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding, but in all of your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. And I know he directed me to Black Men Vent too. I know. I'm telling you. And when I didn't hear back right away, I had to stand down. I'm like, come on, y'all. I ain't gonna say. I'm gonna give you a little bit, but if all hear that, I'm coming back. And
said that we gotta procrastinate a little bit. That's all it was. That's all it was.
Now, you know,
I told you we gotta procrastinate a little bit.
That is so funny. So yes, my book, it actually was just released about 3 weeks or so ago. And
congratulations, sister. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, it's called Crazy Didn't Get Me: Preparation for My Destiny. And it is available on my website. It's also available everywhere books are sold. It's in Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, everywhere books are sold. And I'm so excited. I've received great reviews. Obviously, some people take issue with the title. I don't, because that's the one God gave me.
Yeah, I like the title. It's catchy. It's a catchy title. Yeah.
Yeah. So I listen, I'm family and ain't nothing you can do about it. I love it when you were talking about your family, and y'all, we are gonna go, because I could stay here all night long with Jonathan and Leon, but I know they got to go. I love it when you were talking about your wife and Joshua being, they're in the backstage, but they're doing what they do, and you all are doing what they do. And when you were talking about them, I heard, it's a family affair.
Yeah,
it's a family affair.
Without a doubt.
That's how we do it. Yeah. So that is absolutely.
We never want to do anything without being inclusive, like you said. I'm talking about we've always, I praise God for this, sister, but we've always been a tight-knit family. We've always been there. We go to baseball game, we all going. We go to my son's weightlifting events, we all going. They come hear me, I'm at church doing something, we all go. So I praise God for that. We've always had that. We've always had that.
I absolutely love that. That is something that I always desired, but it just wasn't like that. But so I love that you all, that just warms my heart. And if there's anything that I can do for you all, please feel free to reach out to me. My brothers and my sisters, you have heard it from the one and only dynamic duo, father and son tag team, Jonathan and Leon Davis Jr., founders of Black Men Vent 2, Nashville, Tennessee. Please be sure, keep them on your radar. Reach out to them. Thank you so much, my brother and my friend Wesley, Evangelist Wesley Panama Watkins Jr., my girl, my ride or die, Lizette Holcomb. Thank you all so much for everyone who has been on this evening. And one thing I need you all to do is keep smiling. Take care of your minds.
Yes.
And
Yes.
y'all already know what my mantra is, and that is I am not keeping quiet anymore. And you already heard why I'm not keeping quiet.
Yes,
With
ma'am.
that said, this is going to end this evening show. We'll be back same time, same place next week. But in the meantime, in between time, peace.
What's her name? Little Slim